All right, this is some examples from the IXL for BB.2. And this is going to be one where if you have your graphing calculator and you went out and bought the graphing calculator or borrowed one from the school, like we've been telling you all year to do, these problems will be really easy because you'll be able to just type them in the calculator. If you didn't get a graphing calculator, you can look for something online. They do some online graphing calculators. And you'll have to figure out how to use that one in the way that we're going to use the graphing calculator here. Or you just have to do it by hand, like I'm going to show you. So for BB.2, they mix up these types of problems, but there's basically 3 or 4 types of problems. One of them is going to be this, where they ask you to find the equation of the axis of symmetry. So your answer is going to look like x equal. So you have to type in x equals or it'll mark it wrong. The formula for the axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. And where those a and b values come from is this equation here. So all of your parabolas are in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So b is the coefficient for the x term. So here's my x term, it's negative 4. So it's minus, this minus sign out in front. My value for b is negative 4 over 2 times a, and my value for a is the coefficient of x squared, which is 1. So I have positive 4 divided by 2, and 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So the equation for that axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Remember that axis of symmetry is just that line that cuts that parabola into 2 equal parts. So your parabola is going to look something like, like that. All right, so it's this line that we're talking about here. So that's the first one, and that's how you have to do that by hand. For the next one, same idea here. They're looking for axis of symmetry again. Equation for the axis of symmetry, so your answer will be x equals, must type in x equals, can't just put a number in. And again, negative b over 2a is that formula. So my value for b is negative 2. So this minus sign out in front and that minus sign there, we'll put those two together. And then 2 times my a value, which is 1 again. So I have positive 2 divided by positive 2, which is 1. All right, so that's one type of problem that you're going to see. Axis of symmetry. So pay very close attention to what the directions are asking you. The next type you'll see is to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you're just going to plug in x equals 0 into your equation. So here's my equation. So I'll have 0 squared plus 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Now for these, they want the y-intercept. You can either write it just as the number, or you can write it as the coordinate pair. Well, x was 0 and y was 0. So you can write your answer either one of these ways. If you write y equals 0, it'll mark it wrong. So don't put in y equals. Right, so you can't write it in that form. So let's look at another one that's of that same type. And I'll also show you how to put that in the calculator too. So for this one, the y-intercept again. So y-intercept, if we let x equal 0, negative 6 times 0 squared, 6 times 0. This gives you 0. This gives you 0, so you get 0 for that one. Now, if you wanted to put that into your calculator, what you would do is you would go into y equals, clear anything out that you have in there, and we'll type in the equation. It was negative 6x squared minus 6x. And then you can go to this table feature, which is the graph button right in that top right corner. So we can go second and table, and you'll either be able to type in or you'll be able to just scroll down. When x is 0, what's the outcome? The outcome is 0, and that's our answer right there. All right. So that's one thing that you can do with your calculator, or like I just did here, plug it in by hand. The next type of problem, so this is the third type now, they're going to ask you to find the minimum value of the parabola. So they want to know what's the lowest point that it goes to. So easiest way is to just type this into your graphing calculator. Y equals button's top left corner, x squared. And then your calculator might be set to some kind of different window. So hit the zoom button along the top row. And we want number 6. And you can hit the 6. And it just resets your window to go from -10 to +10, -10 to +10. So if you look at this graph, the lowest point that the parabola goes to is 0. The lowest y value is 0. So that's one way that you can do this. And they said write your answer as a proper fraction, improper fraction, or integer. We got an integer, we're good. Minimum value, they want the y coordinate, or the y value, is what they're asking for. If you do this by hand, we're really looking for the y coordinate for the vertex. So to find the vertex without a calculator, it's -b/2a is your x coordinate. Your y coordinate comes by plugging that number into the equation. So if we find the x coordinate, -b/2a, my values for a, b, and c, I don't have any x's, I don't have a constant, so it would be 0 divided by 2 times 1, which is 0. If I take 0 and plug it back into that equation, I get y is 0. That's the number they're looking for. Much easier with a graphing calculator. Probably wish you bought one, right? Or borrowed it. All right, another one of these, minimum value. All right, so minimum value in your calculator, x squared minus 7x plus 6. And we can look at the graph. All right, by looking at the graph, if you can't tell what that lowest value is, if it's too hard to see, the other thing that you can do then is go second and the trace button, which says calculate above it. And you saw that was a parabola that opens upwards. So we have a low point or a minimum, which is number 3. Your cursor's flashing over here. You can arrow closer to that vertex, but stay on the left side of it. So anywhere on the left side here, doesn't matter, I can stop there. And then we're going to move this. It's asking for the right bound, so push it to the right side of that low point. Anywhere on this branch is fine. Hit enter. It asks, do you want to guess? We don't want to guess. That's why you bought the calculator. All right, so it says the x coordinate's 3.5 and the y coordinate is -6.25. So this is our minimum value. Right. The problem is your directions say write it as a proper fraction, improper fraction, or integer. So you can do one of two things. You can take the easy way out, type it in your calculator, -6.25, hit the math button, which is right below the green button, and we want the answer written as a fraction, which is number 1, which gives us -25 divided by 4. Or you can take 6.25, which is 6 1/4, multiply, 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 gives you 25/4. So you can go back the old way. If you don't have a graphing calculator, you have to do what we just did up here. X is -b/2a. So x is going to equal -b minus -7 all over 2 times a, which is 1. So it gives us negative minus a negative, so it would be positive 7/2. 7/2 or 3.5 if you like. And now I need to plug this back into my equation. So 7/2 squared, 7 times 7/2 plus 6. You'll get that -6.25 or -25/4. All right, so let's look at a last type. Oh, we have one more minimum value to look at, and then we'll do the final type, which is finding the vertex, which we really just did already. So let's see if we have another minimum value problem. Just slide this over a little bit. So minimum value, here's our equation. So my a value is 10. I don't have an x term, so my b value is 0. My c value is -33/4. So by hand, -b/2a would be negative 0 over 2 times 10. Well, that's nice. That gives me x is 0. They don't want the x coordinate, they want the y coordinate for this. So if I plug 0 back into my equation, 10 times 0 squared minus 33 over 4 gives you negative 33 over 4, which is an improper fraction, and that's okay. That's how they want the answer. So negative 33 divided by 4. Don't write it as a decimal, it'll mark it wrong. All right, the last piece they want you to do, you really kind of did this already, so they want you to find the vertex. So they want the x and the y coordinates. They want you to write it as an ordered pair here. So by hand, x is negative b over 2a. So my a value is 1. I don't have an x term, so my b value is 0. My c value is 10. So negative 0 divided by 2 times 1, that just gives me 0. My y coordinate then, if I plug in x is 0 into this equation, 0 squared plus 10, so we get 10. So x is 0, y is 10. Right, so that's the hard way. Here's the easy way. Type it into your calculator, x squared plus 10. Let me slide that up a little so you can see the buttons. Right, so x squared plus 10, and you can graph it. All right, now you don't see the graph on it. The reason why I don't see the graph on it is because the graph is actually outside of your window, negative 10 to positive 10. So one thing you can do is you can go into your window and just make it bigger, make it go negative 20 to 20, and see if you can see the graph. And there it is up there. I want the coordinates for that point there, so second and calculate. It's a minimum point because the parabola opens upward. So just like we did for the last one, move the cursor somewhere to the left of that low point, hit enter. Move it to the right of that low point, hit enter. You don't want to guess, hit enter again. Now it says minimum value 1.64 e to the negative 6. It's just really close to 0. It's a really small number. And our y value is 10, so that's where they get the 0 from. If you ever see this scientific notation here, it's just going to be 0. So 0, 10 for that one. I know it's a little hard to see with the glare there. All right, and then the last one, we'll do it with the calculator and by hand. So we have minus 8x, and then plus, make sure if you're using your calculator that 27 over 4 has to be in parentheses. Any fractions have to go in parentheses. And we can graph it. Now our window might be big for this one, we may not need that much of a window. But as long as you can see that low point, it's fine, whatever you have going on there. So let's see, second and calculate, it's still a minimum value because the parabola opens upward. Hit enter anywhere to the left. Now we want right bound, so anywhere to the right, hit enter, you don't want to guess. So minimum, if you round 3.999999 off, that's going to be a 4. And our y coordinate's negative 9.25. Now again, they want it as a fraction. So you could write that as negative 9 1/4, and then convert this. 36 plus 1 would give you 37 over 4. Remember, multiply, add. If you don't want to do that, negative 9.25, math, number 1 is fraction, and there's your negative 37 over 4. All right, so that's what you're looking at in this one. For the last one here, if you